Good evening, Steeler fans. Welcome to another Wednesday night here on Behind the Steel Curtain Radio. If it's Wednesday night and it's the offseason, it's time for the Curtain Call podcast. I'm Geoffrey Benedict. Here with me, as always, Shannon White. Shannon, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. We were just having some, great conversation before the show started, and I'm like, man, we got to start this show and share these pearls of wisdom with all the listeners. I mean, I was like, man, we got to save some of it,
We'll save a few. We'll
Yes.
save a few. You guys will get the wow, that's terrible. Anyways, last week we talked about the Steelers defense, the roster on the team heading into the offseason. Today we're going to talk about the offense. And Shannon, to me, the big story on offense is nothing's changing. Like really, nothing. Almost everyone's coming back, including offensive coordinator Matt Canada. How do you think it's a good idea bringing this whole offense back? All the major players are back. Do you think that's good?
I'm excited about because they're such a young group. Like we talked recently, I mean, everybody's under 26 years of age, so they can really grow together. They showed so much improvement in the second half of the year, albeit against an easier schedule, but still improvement's improvement. It's like I was talking a while back, at one point, the Steelers offensive line could not get any push against any defense. I mean, they played the Seattle Seahawks last year, and they had just given up 200 some yards rushing the week before. We're ranked dead last in the NFL against the run. And the Steelers still cannot get any push and develop any running game. Their running game was so inconsistent because of that. They had no burst. If it was 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, they were terrible. We remember the one game where they 4 shots from the goal line, they couldn't score. This year that changed. Now, a lot of it changed because of, Pat Meyer, and they did a lot of combo blocks, and they started working better in unison. And, that helped them get push, even against bigger defensive tackles. Early in the year, we was talking before the show, pass blocking was good. Run blocking still wasn't good. A lot of blown assignments and lack of push. But I think they had to learn the new style, the new sets, and to work, on a lot of combination blocks, which they were able to do there in the second half. So I'm really excited about the personnel coming back. Now, Matt Canada coming back, again, we've talked, run game coordinator, I'm fine with him, but I just think that they need some, I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to have to improve, in the pass coordinating part of it. And I think that I don't think they're going to bring anybody in from outside, but they might. I think they need to, because something needs to change there. But because that's going to set a ceiling for the offense next year on all the players on offense, because I think they're going to be limited if they don't, because I think that's where Canada struggles the most. But I kind of understand the rationale and the reasoning, and we know Steelers don't pay somebody to sit home. So, but I'm hoping for the best, but I'm really excited about the young core.
You were talking about short yardage and especially 3rd and 4th downs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I found this stat amazing. Someone asked me this question. They're like, how did the Steelers rank in that? They were the 2nd best team in the NFL at converting 3rd or 4th down at 3 yards or less. I want to say that again. 2nd best. If it was 3rd and 4th and 3 yards to go or less, they converted at the 2nd highest rate of any team in the NFL. Now, I would take that one step farther with Pat Meyer and Matt Canada and how they do the run game, right? 31 times a 3rd or 4th down with 3 or fewer yards ended with a run play by a non-running back, wide receiver, fullback, tight end, quarterback. Steelers converted 30 out of 31 of those attempts, 96.8% conversion rate. So we talk about jet sweeps. We talk about the wing back counter plays. Derek Watt
Mm-hmm.
The one that didn't make it, Derek Watt, was like 6 of 7 or 7 for 8.
Mm-hmm.
He missed one, but he was still like 80-90% complete. Like crazy numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy numbers. All of the wide receiver sweeps they did on 3rd or 4th and short, every single one of them converted. Every one. And then you had a whole bunch of quarterback runs in there. Quarterback sneaks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Every single one was converted. That is amazing, the turnaround from the line we saw. Whereas like it's 3rd and 2, you throw the ball, buddy. Don't even try to run. to this last year, like you could do no wrong. Like the Steelers' run game just dominated on those plays. So that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. And it's been my opinion, and I think when you say you get the rationale behind it, you're agreeing with me. I think the reason Matt Canada is back is because the Steelers believe that run game is the right kind of training wheels for a young quarterback. Right? Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. I think they've seen, we talk about fit a lot of time, players and the fit to the scheme, but Matt Canada's and Pat Meyer's blocking scheme is a good fit as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of times, you start to develop that like they did this year, and then you switch either or, the offensive coordinator or the offensive line coach, and the next guy won't be as smooth a transition, and they won't have that chemistry. And so I think it really Pat Meyer kind of helped bring Matt Canada back.
Yeah.
Because we're bad, all of us, for, man, you get spoiled by Munchak, and then you go to Shannon, and then you go to Clem, and then you're like, oh, man, I miss Mike Munchak, but I wasn't super excited about Pat Meyer. You had talked about some of his previous history of success, and, but I wasn't thinking about the Panthers and, their running game so much, but they did have McCaffrey and they had some success there. And, but it's watching, especially in the training camp and early preseason, you're like, these guys don't know what they're doing. And,
they were bad.
They were bad. They were really bad.
Yeah, it was really bad.
But you just got more and more encouraged as you've seen, because not only was it a new offensive blocking principles, but you had all them new guys.
Mm-hmm.
Cole and Daniels right in the center of everything. And it took them a little while to accumulate, but acclimate. But once they did, I thought that Daniels just had a really, really solid season.
Oh, yeah.
Easily the best since DeCastro at right guard. And I'm much higher on Mason Cole than a lot of people, because I believe that Cole showed as the year went on, and he talked about it after the season in an interview just this week, that the communication part, being a full-time starter at center, he's always been more of a role player and a depth guy.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say his ceiling or his ability limits him there, but just where he was at, they had somebody maybe better, more experienced than him. But he started to really communicate and show leadership on that line. And if you really watched, he got pushed back at times, but a lot of centers do. But, he has this offseason to really work on where he's seen he struggled. He seems like the kind of guy that has that work ethic. He's ahead of the game now as far as leadership, communication, all that stuff. I expect him, if he can be healthy, which is always with an offensive lineman the big question mark, I expect him to be even better next year.
I see. That's the exciting thing to me is this offensive line. You were just talking about how bad they were in training camp, in the preseason, even into all the way up through the bye week. You can say that offensive line just was bad. It was varying degrees of bad. Like I remember talking every week. We'd be like, well, the offensive line was better. They're like, and we would go from like they're a dumpster fire to a dumpster fire, but they put out the fire. It's a smoldering former dumpster fire, right? Like, but it's still a dumpster of burnt trash. They're terrible, but they put the fire out. Okay, like that was the degrees of improvement. But by the end of the season, they're actually really good. Like they're I wouldn't say really good. They were really good compared to the last couple the earlier in the season and the year before. But I'd say they were approaching like a solid offensive line to even a good offensive line.
Yes.
They're all coming back.
Mm-hmm.
How big, how good do you think this offensive line as constructed can be? Because we all know there are pieces on there. Talked about Mason Cole. Talked about Daniels. You've got Chukwuma Okorafor, who, in my opinion, I think most people would agree with this, played his best season. You didn't notice him all year.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe one or two plays earlier in the season, but he just kind of disappeared and did his job for most of the season. Actually, a lot of people are saying like it was just a good season for him. That you're not going to mess with that. He's out there. He's doing a good job. The left side of the line, Shannon, we have Dan Moore Jr. and Kevin Dotson. Can the Steelers say, hey, you know, these guys have familiarity, they can grow, they can maybe improve? Obviously, last season we know in the offseason, they weren't working so much on the plays, they were getting their form rebuilt, they were getting all this stuff worked on. They did improve. Would you be like, what's your level of comfort with those two being starters next year?
Well, first I got to mention when you was talking about the dumpster fire and they put it out and it was a smoldering fire, and it reminded me of Major League movie when they're like, these guys suck, and they're like, they're not too bad, you know. Later in the so that's kind of like how we all felt about the Steelers offensive line as the year went on. I've seen a couple of comments, you know, about that the offensive line improved because the quality of the opponent went down. Now that's true, and I mentioned that earlier. But again, this offensive line has been so bad for 2 years in a row that it didn't matter who they played. You know, if you had anybody of quality on at a defensive tackle, somebody with beef and size, you know, and a little quickness, they destroyed the Steelers' interior line for the last couple of years. And like I said, last year, it was just snap, 3 steps, you know, less than 2 seconds, the ball's out, because if not, Ben's getting killed. This year, you actually seen progress. Now, the Okorafor, I just wrote an article posted yesterday that I think and I had to eat crow because he had his best season. You know, KT Smith, and we had talked about it on the show when they signed him, not re-signed. You know, I always say that, but it signed him as a free agent. It's because he's still 25 years old. And it's his 5th year completed in the NFL. It's incredible. And he's just now, I think, coming into his prime, and he showed that this year. And what I was most concerned about is athletically, he is the prototypical left tackle. He's got really long arms. He slides good. He's got, you know, he's light on his feet for a large man. But he didn't have the intensity. He didn't have the junkyard dog in him that you want to see. This year, you started to see it. There was some pancake blocks. There was some blocks, you know, 10, 20 yards downfield where he'd take out a cornerback. One time, I think it was Pickett got hit. He tried to slide and he got hit. And Okorafor was right in the guy's face. See, that's a level of confidence that we hadn't seen in the past from Okorafor. And I believe that he, you know, he got this financial security and the security of, I'm going to be with this organization for a while. And it brought out a level of confidence and maturity in him that we hadn't seen before. So when it comes from Cole to Daniels to Okorafor, I'm really happy with that side. And I think as you are. The left side, you know, again, they started that year good at pass blocking, and they was blowing assignments and missing blocks in the running game like crazy. Then they changed, and then they were really solid in the last few weeks running the ball to the left. But the pass blocking was still an issue. It just, you know, it's like they could do one or they could do the other, but they couldn't do both. And we know that Meyer asked them to be more aggressive and almost kind of, I call it jump set, and try to make first contact and not absorb so much. And he really wants that across the line. Harder for the center, but, you know, for the other guys. And so, you know, at first, I think that's why they was missing so many assignments. And you know, then it looks like, you know, the Keystone Cops when they do that, because there's just somebody coming wide open. Well, that's on Pickett's blind side. So even, you know, at the end of the year, as he was showing progression and improving, I think it was always in the back of his mind that he had to, he was feeling pressure even when it wasn't there coming from the backside. And people saying he's leaving an open pocket, but he felt it collapsing. Because,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it's really
his internal
big.
clock was short. Like
Oh,
his
yeah.
fuse was short because he was used to it all year.
And I think it's really big for Pickett's development to keep that cohesion and that line together. Bring all these guys coming back. Now you want to add to that. And if you get an upgrade at left tackle or left guard, you got to take it. Let them compete. If you bring a guy in, say he's a rookie or a free agent, let him compete with more, or let him compete with Dotson. And, let the best guy win. But that way you'll keep that camaraderie and that cohesion on that line, and that will help Pickett to have more faith, because he does have to develop his game as a pocket passer, because we've seen different people, and we have on the discussion thread talk about he's rushing.
Mm-hmm.
He's rushing. You see him in college when he was comfortable and he's just scanning the field, picking people apart, but he never had that cover level inside the pocket. And it's because he didn't, have that trust yet. It takes time. But I'm writing an article right now about, some of the weak spots for the Steelers last year. And, I think Dotson is one. But my question was he playing out of position? Because Kevin Dotson's best performances that I remember was his rookie year playing next to a Corford, and the Corford played really good with him on that right side. And that's his natural position from college. So I want to see the Steelers use that versatility they have on that offensive line, and at least during training camp, move these guys around and see if maybe, some guys are better fits in other places. They pretty much set everybody up where they was going to be at the start of training camp this year, besides Dotson and Kinder Green, which was insane, because Green's never going to play guard in the NFL. He's going to be a center, or he ain't going to be in the NFL.
Yep.
But that was the only place. Everything else, the positions were, this is your position and it's set. And it was that way all season. But next year, I think if they maybe tried Dotson, he might have more value on that right side. But again, that's just a theory.
Oh yeah, I'll go with it. I mean, when it was Pouncey at center, Dotson at right guard, and Okorafor at right tackle, that side of the offensive line was fantastic. Pouncey and Dotson were so good together, because Pouncey by that point had all the brains in the world, had all the experience in the world. He was fantastic leadership, but he's getting older, and a lot of those top tier defensive tackles gave him trouble. And Dotson just putting some beef. Solid beef, and Pouncey be like, you get that guy, like you just steer him in a direction, and then the next year all of a sudden it's Kendrick Green in the middle, and he had no clue what he's doing. I still think Dotson can turn it around. I think he can be good. We've seen what he can do, and in the run game, man, by the end of it, he was getting the outside zone plays. Even he was doing pretty solidly in outside zone, which was a huge weakness of his. Inside zone, he's a beast. Outside, he was terrible. He was getting the outside zone down. I could see it, but I also agree with you. I think looking at the guys that are free agents, J.C. Hassenhauer, and both of the outside guys, Jesse Davis and Trenton Scott, that they brought in that really didn't play much. They didn't have a chance. Everyone played all the season. Those guys are free agents. The Steelers have room to go out and grab someone who may be like a top tier backup, who could also say, hey, if Dotson struggles, you're in. Go get a veteran. You get a veteran who understands this system that may not need that much time to adjust to it and to learn the spots, and can step into a group where everyone else knows their role and just execute his. And if Dotson falters, you got him. You got that spot covered. If Dan Moore Jr. is really struggling, you got it covered. I think that's the opportunity on the offensive line, like you said. I'm going to agree with that. Moving on from the offensive line to probably the second most important position on offense, only because offensive line has 5 people. Anytime you have 5 people in one position, it's pretty big. But the quarterback position. Steelers had 3 quarterbacks last season vying for the job in training camp. That's not the case this year. Going into training camp, the Steelers have a starting quarterback, Kenny Pickett. Mason Rudolph's a free agent. And then you've got Mitch Trubisky, currently penciled in $8 million, second season of his deal. How do you see this quarterback room behind Kenny Pickett shaping out personnel-wise?
Well, we had we were told it was going to be an open quarterback competition.
Yeah.
But in all reality, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
No. I mean, it was when they signed Mitch Trubisky, Tomlin had already said, I do not want to go into the year with a rookie quarterback. He wanted an experience. He wanted to win. And you know how it is when you start a rookie right off the bat, you're going to take your lumps. And so I think that the fact that they brought in Trubisky and they drafted Pickett, it meant that Rudolph was not in consideration to be the starter. And I agreed with that. Now, as you say, going into this offseason, Kenny Pickett could go into it with the mindset, I'm the starter. Here's what I got to work on. It's a different focus this year.
Oh,
so I'm hoping to have an even more successful offseason for him and working with Trubisky brought everybody down to Florida and they all work together.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got great leadership skills and he's a great guy. And I mean, everybody has limitations in life. And I think that his limitation is that he's a quality backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think Rudolph could be a quality backup quarterback. But you have to get to that point, if somewhere along the line, you got to realize I'm not going to be a full-time quality starter. And I need to, say this is what I'm going to really focus on. Being, a second set of eyes on the sidelines, being another quarterback coach, always being ready and prepared, whatever the situation, because you could go in a moment's notice. Those guys are extremely valuable around the league. And they make good money having a long career holding the clipboard most of the time. So It's not the worst thing that could ever happen to somebody. We act like, you're the backup and that's just horrible. That, and if in the right situation, you come in, you carry your team the rest of the year. Be a Nick Foles, Jeff Hostetler, Frank Wright, any of these guys down through the years that were great backups. I think Rudolph will want to go somewhere else just because, it's just, there's a lot of venom. There's blood in the water in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, when you come into a game in the preseason and you're booed, I mean, just because you come on the field, it's like there's just, with him, there's a love-hate relationship. Everybody either loves him or they hate him. And really, it should be something in the middle because he's not been a problem. He's not drama, but he might be more comfortable restarting his career somewhere else where he could compete for the starting quarterback position. Or be, if that guy like this year, Trubisky not paying out, and he could come in and be that next guy. I would like to have Trubisky back because I really like him. But again, he felt kind of betrayed. He said if he'd have known, he'd have waited a little longer before signing with the Steelers on, I think it was the first day of free agency, if I ain't mistaken. So, I don't blame him if he wants to go somewhere else. And the Steelers would, if he really talks to them, I think they might say, hey, we're going to trade you so you have that opportunity. But so it wouldn't shock me at all for the Steelers to try to pick up a quarterback in the late round.
Mm-hmm.
Because they got 2 7th-rounders, I think. And you might have a guy like, is it Stetson? No. What's the kid from Georgia?
Yeah, Stetson, right?
Stetson. I think it is. Or Stennett. No. He's very experienced. He's 25 already. So he would come in and it'd almost be like having a veteran backup, and to be that quarterback 3. And then they'll have to, if they really do have to move Trubisky, they'll have to look for a veteran, I think, to back up Pickett.
Yeah. Someone in the chat mentioned Josh Dobbs, saying bring back Josh Dobbs. I loved Josh Dobbs in 2019. Dobbs, yeah. They got a good offer for him. They took it, not thinking our third quarterback's going to start 6 games this year. And we ended up with Devlin Hodges starting. But Josh Dobbs, I think we'd both be cool with Josh Dobbs coming back.
Oh, yeah, I like Josh, yeah.
All right. We're going to take our break right now. When we come back, we're going to get into all the other positions, wide receiver, running back, tight end, all of that. We'll get back to that in just a moment. And we're back. We just talked about the quarterback. We talked about the offensive line. Well, actually, we talked about backup quarterback. We'll swing back around to Kenny Pickett again. Don't worry about it. We're gonna go right now though to running back. Shannon, is there anything really to say about this running back room coming into the offseason? It seems pretty set. You've got a number 1, you got a number 2. Benny Snell is a free agent. You can bring him back if you want. I think do you have any problems with this running back group?
We had talked, me and you, and on the podcast, that I reserved judgment on the running back room prior to last year, and because I wanted to see what they could do behind at least an average offensive line.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't have that at the beginning of the season, but in that second half of the season, the Steelers were average to slightly above average at the end. And you've seen the difference. Benny Snell averaged his best career yards per carry easily, was very effective in his limited usage when he had to play. Even Anthony McFarland, he looked really good and was hitting the hole hard, and there was holes there, which, for a long time, there wasn't any running lanes. So, again, we know that a defensive line can make the linebackers look a lot better. Well, we know that an offensive line, running back's got to have it. And I think that Najee Harris this year was the first year I could say, even the last year, he grinded out them tough yards and had a great rookie season considering what he was running behind. But I was still like, was he the right decision in the first round? Because the first rounder running back, the way they've been devalued now, you have to be something special. Yeah, one of the top running backs in the league, especially in your division. I believe that in that second half of this season, he took that step up. It was criminal how little Matt Canada used him in the passing game. Because if you see what running backs are doing right now around the league and in these playoffs, they split them up out wide, and they used to do that with Le'Veon Bell. Harris could do that. You can move him around and get matchups. He can float like we begged him to do, and they started doing in the Raiders game. Let him float through the line if he didn't have nobody to block, and hit him right over the middle. And then little quarterbacks and most safeties don't want to try to tackle him. I mean, I was watching a replay today of when Myles Garrett tried to tackle him that last game, and he caught him, and he got leverage on him, and Harris just put him straight on the ground. He almost broke out of that against the guy that's considered all world. I mean, Harris has got that kind of ability, but I was like, does he have that special quality that make him worth that first round pick? If you notice late in the year, he would hit the hole north and south at full speed, and they would be traffic at his feet, a down defender or something like that. In the past, he would hesitate or he would hurl. And what he was doing there towards the end, he'd see the hole and he would high step, which, some running backs do. And, some of the best, Roger Craig was great at that. He would just high step over any traffic at his feet and maintain his speed. And then, so those runs early in the year that were 2 and 3 yards turned into 6, 7, 8 yard runs. And then he got so comfortable. And then the left side of the line started gelling. He was cutting and bouncing outside and actually having the quickness to get out there, and he had some longer runs. We never see that even as a rookie. So I think he proved that he was a good pick in the first round, and he has the leadership and the talent to be a mainstay for this offense for years to come. What do you say about Jalen Warren? I mean, the kid come out of nowhere. They signed the kid Durant out of Duke, if I remember right, to the biggest bonus, the biggest bonus they'd ever had, or give it to an undrafted free agent. So Warren was kind of the afterthought. And, I watched him at college at Oklahoma State, but I didn't know that his skill would translate to the NFL like that. But he was the perfect change of pace, a backup running back. He was so good, even though he fumbled twice. I think once in the preseason, once early in the season. he got this reputation as a fumbler, which, he disproved that real quick. But the ball security that Harris and Warren showed this year was very important because on a young offense that struggles so much, they couldn't have giveaway possessions. The turnovers, just they couldn't have it. And both of them did an excellent job of ball security this year. But Warren was the diamond in the rough. He's he made Tomlin, kind of move back from that bell cow and say, we need to keep Harris around more than 3 years by, beating his head against the brick wall. So, yeah, I'm very happy with the running back room. I would bring back Snell or McFarland, at a league minimum deal, because Snell can play special teams and he shows that he can be good short yardage and emergency filling guy. And McFarland even looked good when he got, an opportunity. So I wouldn't put a draft pick on a running back at all this year.
I want to clarify real quick, because the way I said it, I think people were thinking I was saying McFarland's a free agent. I don't believe he is a free agent this year. Benny Snell is. Mm-hmm. I don't believe McFarland is. Benny Snell had one good game, the game he had to actually play. Mm-hmm. 12 carries, 62 yards, 5 yards of carries. We'd never seen that. And you saw some Benny Snell football from Benny Snell. You actually saw it meaning, hey, you need 3 yards, you get 3 yards. You want 4 yards, you get 4 yards. 1st and 10, you're getting 3 or 4 yards. That's what you're getting. Like, you're getting tough yards, whether that's what you need or not. You're getting those tough yards. And he's core special teams player. He was he was tied for team lead in special team snaps, right up there with your Derek Watt. He's top tier guy now. And watching him on film, he's become a top tier special teams guy. This guy's carved out a niche. If he leaves the Steelers, he's going to be a special teams guy and your backup running back. I would love to see him back on Pittsburgh just because he's solid. I think you can go in there now and say he's your number 3 and be like, okay, he's our number 3 and he's going to take all the special team snaps. That means you got Warren and Harris. You don't need them to do anything at all. You're good. Like, you guys don't need to be on special teams that much, which I think is a big benefit. Because if you get in a different backup running back, for example, Anthony McFarland, who never plays on special teams, they never play him on special teams. If it's Harris, Warren, McFarland next year, who's doing the special teams?
Yeah, really.
Right now, you're asking Jalen Warren, to be a special teams player, right? To focus on that, and he's already your number 2 back, and that meant something this year. Not you're going to sit and see if someone gets hurt. That meant something. So I would actually like to see Benny Snell come back. If not, you have to find somebody. Because if Benny Snell leaves and Derek Watt leaves, you've lost 2 of your main special teams guys. Those are 2 of your main guys. They play on a lot of different sets. They play a lot of special teams. So that's an important part to me. I agree with you. My take on this running back room with Warren and Harris. Does any team have 2 running backs that run more violently? Right? You know what I mean? Like Najee Harris. Najee Harris has that Derrick Henry level of, I don't want to break this tackle. I want to make you regret trying. Right? Like, I want you next time to be like, I don't want to be on film getting my face smashed into the ground by Najee Harris. You mentioned the Myles Garrett play. I love it. Someone on Twitter had the video of them after the game.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Meet up and they're talking and they're smiling and they're laughing about it. I'm like, some people are offended by that because it's Brown Steelers. I understand. I don't care. I just love the fact that they're talking about it. Like, they're like, oh man, I almost had you. And Myles is like, I wasn't gonna let go of you. You can imagine like that's like NBA, like when people used to dunk on someone and it turned into a poster and you get it on your wall. And like that guy on the poster that's getting dunked on, that would have been Myles Garrett.
Oh yeah,
Myles Garrett would have been that dude, but he pulled him hard enough to get his knee down and end the play. But man,
you remember at the end of the Patriots Raiders game, all that crazy play.
Oh, that crazy play, yeah.
Chandler Jones, when he smashed Mac Jones in the face and on the ground, that was bad. But if Harris would have broke out of that tackle of Garrett,
it would have been worse.
It went on more yardage. it would have been on every Sports Center highlight.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they would have never let. That's why Garrett's like, I wouldn't let him go.
He was like, no, get that. He just barely got that knee down. Did a good job of it, but I love it. Oh, and Warren's blocking, his help blocking.
Oh, awesome.
He hits guys hard. Oftentimes, you'll see a running back come up and chip hard and blow the block for the offensive lineman. Like the lineman has him lined up. I just need a little help keeping him secured, and then knock the dude, and he's in the inside. And now the offensive lineman's trying to completely shift balance, and the guy beats him because the running back knocked him into an open lane. Right? He reversed his momentum for him.
Yeah.
You don't want that. And Warren doesn't do that. Warren hits hard, but he hits them right. And he doesn't ruin the blocks for the offensive lineman. Warren's a fantastic blocker. That makes him a great third down back. You know, Najee Harris is not the best blocker. He's gotten better, but he's not good.
One thing that works in Warren's favor is his lack of height.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're saying he might be 5'7".
Yeah.
But if you watch him, when he's running, he gets low, even though he's already short. And it's hard for guys to see him behind that massive humanity. But when these guys are blitzing up the middle and there's all that traffic and they explode into the backfield, think they got the quarterback, he comes out of nowhere. And when he blocks, he comes up. And to me, he's like a ram. You know how when two rams are fighting and that's what he does. He comes up and he catches guys here and he's caught a couple of them under the chin.
Yep.
And he puts guys down, man, because he's got that leverage and they're going backwards and they land on their back half the time. I love to watch him pick up blitzers up the middle because I don't even know if he missed one this year, but I've seen 3 or 4 highlights where he planted them.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. He does a great job. Let's bring the last one I bring up here is Derek Watt. Do you think Derek Watt is worth re-signing? Obviously, I don't think he's going to get the same contract he got when he first came here, but I can't be sure. We all saw what Tyler Matakevich got when he left as a special teams guy. Derek Watt is a top tier special teams guy with a good reputation around the NFL. Would you bring him back? Are we looking for a new fullback? How would you handle that?
You know, Derek Watt is, as you said, he's a great special teams player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's just good. I mean, if you really watch him and when he's not out there, you know, it's a huge difference.
Yep.
He is
a big difference.
He just has a feel for just full speed, weaving through traffic and you know, getting past blocks and going right to the ball. He's got a nose for the ball. You kind of wonder why he didn't play defense, you know, like his brothers, because he does have a nose to find that football. And you see it on special teams. I believe that they signed him initially because they was thinking about TJ Watt's future contract. And, you know, hey, he's going to be happier here. He's going to be comfortable here. Well, now they have the contract signed, and now Derek has value. And this year, you know, besides his special teams, he did, I think it was 8 or 9, maybe 7 and 8 successful short yardage plays. He called a touchdown. You know, he did some good things. And he's a better blocker. Like I say, what if you go with Connor Hayward and try to have him be H-back and play some fullback? He's not as good a blocker, and he's not as good at special teams, and he has his own niche and his own role. They're both glue guys. And in my opinion, if you could re-sign him or sign him to a reasonable deal, you're killing a lot of birds with one stone. One, you're keeping your best player happy. You're keeping a leader and a great clubhouse guy, you know, in the locker room. You're keeping a great special teams guy. We've seen in the playoffs, special teams can kill you. You know, you're keeping you're probably your best special teams guy, you know, on the team. And it's a glue guy. And you got to have those. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think that maybe not the contract he got before, but a reasonable contract, I think you definitely bring him back.
Just real quick on Derek Watt. Derek Watt touched the ball 14 times, 5 receptions, 9 rushes. He scored 2 touchdowns and converted 9 first downs. Average yards per play, 2.3, and his longest gain was 5 yards. He definitely was a factor in the short yardage game. and not really used for anything else. Like he was, that was the guy. You need 1 yard, Derek Watt's going to get you 2 or 3. And that's kind of what they used him for.
But that's valuable.
He fit. Yeah, he fit.
It's very valuable.
You get 8 out of 9 on short yardage runs. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, neither of them were like that. Like Derek Watt had that value. And you see when he hits the hole, like, you know how they do it now, like the quarterback sneak and the guy runs up and like pushes the quarterback through. Yeah. Derek Watt looks like that dude when he runs for the first down. Like he looks like he's the guy. He's in there pushing the offensive line. Like he's like
pushing him,
boom, and he's driving the offensive line forward. It's just like, okay, he's doing it for himself. He's got like both arms. He's got a death grip on that football, and he's just charging full speed and just ramming his way in there. He's gonna get that yard. Like I love it. He's got that same competitive spirit TJ and JJ have. Yep. I'd love to see him back again, but like you said, Steelers are pretty close up against the cap. They can't spend on that position. Yep. That role is not one they can really spend money on. So we'll see. I'd love to have him back. We'll see. Moving on from running back, let's go to tight end, where the Steelers are losing, could lose. They have the free agent with the most snaps played of any position of a free agent in Zach Gentry. The most valuable offensive free agent the Steelers have this year is Zach Gentry. Okay, we'll start. I know it's Zach Gentry. Let's start with Pat Freiermuth, the holdover position. We all thought Pat Freiermuth, Zach Gentry could be a high-end tight end position. Mm-hmm. We expected great things from Pat Freiermuth. Recent report, I think it was ESPN, ranked him 16th in the NFL among all tight ends, which was better than they did his rookie season. But what do you think of Pat Freiermuth's second season? How would you rate that?
I ranked Freiermuth much higher than 16th. In my opinion, if you watch, I mean, a lot of times you got to say a guy is limited by his quarterback, or quarterbacks in this case. He's limited by his offensive coordinator, by the scheme. Freiermuth, he's right up there. You got your Kettle, you've got shoot, I can't think of the kid out of you got Kettle and you got Kittle. And then you got the kid from Minnesota, Hendrickson. No, not Hendrickson.
Hawkinson.
You've got guys like that who the Buffalo tight end really had a good year this year. Towards the end of the year, had him on my fantasy team. Now I can't remember his name, but you have those top two. And then I think Freiermuth's on the level with all those second-tier guys. He just didn't have the opportunities. But he had an excellent second season. To me, he'll always be more of a move tight end, receiving threat. You want him to be a decent to maybe slightly above average blocker at some point. But that's not really what they drafted him for. He really tries hard. He gives great effort. My only concern is, again, I've said, is the concussions, because he plays a certain way, and the way he plays, sets him up and puts him in danger of a lot of these, blows to the head, where he keeps fighting for that extra yardage, and so to me, his health is the only concern I have about Freiermuth at all, because I believe he's going to be. The only thing holding him back is the quarterback play, which I think Pickett's going to improve, and the offensive coordinator, because I think Freiermuth can be that good. He's going to be the security blanket and you've seen that as the year went on. He was becoming a lot like what Heath Miller was for being. Zach Gentry. I mean, I thought that guy was, when I found when they drafted him in the first season, his rookie year, I'm like, this guy's like a giraffe. Yep. I mean, he's so tall and he was so gangly, and he didn't have any mass on him, really, muscle. And he was just getting pushed around, and he couldn't get leverage at that height. And I did not think he would make the team his next year, second season.
Yep.
There's another guy I've had to eat a lot of crow because
Mhm.
he is bulked up. He's put in the hard work. People don't understand that's dedication in the off season. That doesn't happen during the season. That's dedication in the off season. And he has reshaped his body and reinvented himself as an actual tight end. And at one point there in the season, if the quarterback had gotten hurt, he was they'd had to went to him as the
Yep.
quarterback. I don't want to see him play quarterback now because I mean he hasn't played quarterback in forever, and I think that his quarterback days are way behind him. But somebody might overvalue him like they did Jesse James,
Mhm.
and see him as really a top end number two, and they might give him top end number two money. So if they do, I don't see how the Steelers will be able to match it. Similar with what happened with James. So I'd like to see him back. I think he's. It's funny. Him and Freiermuth have a good connection. I don't know if you've ever seen any of their podcasts, and
Oh, they're hilarious.
they're hilarious. They have just a real connection. People don't realize how important that is on teams
Yep.
because if you like the people you go to work with every day, you don't have to like them, but they either got to motivate you because you're competing against them, or you're fighting for them. But indifference is not good. So
Yeah.
I like that tight ends room with Connor Hayward. You have the whole spectrum. You have every kind of player, and they all have special abilities to offer this offense.
No, I agree with that. I love those three together by the
Yeah.
end of the season. I thought they were a great set. It will be interesting to see if they bring back Gentry. On Freiermuth, I want to say my snippet here on Freiermuth. When he had Ben Roethlisberger, the completion percentage from Ben Roethlisberger to Pat Freiermuth was like 76%.
Mm-hmm.
They were incredible, right? Because Ben was always great at placing the ball where his receiver had a chance to make a play. Like you didn't have a great chance. It wasn't like the ball was perfect, but the ball was where you could make a play. And we saw that in Freiermuth's rookie year. We saw him make the play on balls that were Ben gave him the slimmest of chance.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically, and it was a great tribute. The guy's kind of covered, but Ben's like, you know what? I'm going to put it where maybe he can get it. The defense isn't going to get it, but maybe my guy will get it. And Pat Freiermuth was coming down with those balls. You go to Mitch Trubisky in this season, their percentage completions was under 60%. It was actually quite bad. Him and Mitch Trubisky didn't do well together. Kenny Pickett, it was up closer to 70%. They connected for 500 yards. More Kenny Pickett threw to Pat Freiermuth for more yards than Ben Roethlisberger did to him in his rookie season. So I think Kenny and Pat Freiermuth really, really developed, really worked.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look, I know we talk about the Steelers weren't throwing over the middle much, right? When they did throw to the middle of the field, it was almost entirely Pat Freiermuth. Like something like 80% of their yards over the middle of the field was Pat Freiermuth, or at least attempts. That's the Steelers were actually one of the better passing teams over the middle simply because of Kenny Pickett to Pat Freiermuth.
Yep.
Right. That relationship, and I think they're going to get even better. Again, he didn't play much with Pat Freiermuth in the preseason. He didn't do much with Pat Freiermuth in the training camp. I think there's a lot of room to grow there. I love we all love what we saw from Connor Hayward in small doses. Hopefully he can build on that. I think the tight end room is in good shape, and if you bring back Zach Gentry, I think you can do it. I think you can roll him back in and do it again, or he's a guy you could go in the draft and replace with a young, another blocking type tight end.
That's what I wanted to bring up. And I wanted to ask your opinion on this because we've talked about it some on Behind the Steel Curtain. There's a couple of tight ends this year. There's a kid out of Georgia. Last name's Washington. He's like Zach Gentry, but he's athletic. And he's like 6'7", 250, great catch radius, good hands. Likes to hurdle people. He's athletic. And he's a good blocker. He'd be like having an extra tackle out there.
Yep.
And much better blocker than Freiermuth, and maybe as good a blocker as Gentry already. He's probably would be a second round. It'd have to be one of them second round guys. And then there's another kid out of Utah, Kincaid, who kind of reminds me of Freiermuth. The only reason I would consider is because to me the offense doesn't have to have 3 top receivers as much as it has to have 5 weapons.
Yeah.
And a good offensive coordinator can use them. If you have 2 top tight ends, that's as good as having that extra receiver. Matter of fact, you can run 2 tight end sets. It helps your running game. You know, you can get great mismatches, and you can still have Pickens and Deontay Johnson. I know everybody wants Addison because they think that it's going to be a repeat of Burrow and Chase. But I honestly, when I think about it, because of the one with Pickett in this offense, they want to run the football, and you can't count on that connection, Pickett. I mean, Rudolph in Washington was great in college. It didn't translate to the pros. So we don't know.
They set records.
Yeah.
They set records in college.
Tons of records. We don't know if Pickett will have that instant connection with Addison or if he'll be the same type of receiver at the professional level. So if you take one of these tight ends in the second round, you would have the 2 tight end sets. It would help the running game. Pickett likes to work the middle. You have instant mismatches. You already got Harrison Warren. You're going to have plenty of offensive weapons to spread the field. So, I know everybody wants that extra wide receiver, but, they could look and go tight end there in the second round.
I'll go with you on that. People talk about Burrow and Jamar Chase, and they focus on their relationship together in college. To me, that looked like Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. It didn't take long for Matt Ryan to realize I can throw the ball to Julio Jones because he's that good.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase is that good. Joe Burrow knew it already, so he didn't have to learn that. But even if Jamar Chase had gone anywhere last year, it wouldn't have taken his quarterback long to learn. Throw the ball to Jamar Chase. Yeah. The guy wasn't a top 5 pick because he knew Joe Burrow. It was a top 5 pick because he was worth it. Like he was that kind of a talent. So for me, Jordan Addison, if you're looking saying, oh, he's the bottom of the first round guy and he could be like our Jamar Chase, no, he's not that guy.
No, nobody.
If you're not that guy, you're not going to be that guy. Just because you knew your quarterback in college. If you can run the routes and your quarterback can throw you the ball, you're going to be fine. That relationship helps, in my opinion, helps ease the into the NFL, but that doesn't mean that much.
There's no guarantee.
Yeah, if you're not getting open, if you're not making plays on the ball, if your quarterback's not good enough to get you the ball, it doesn't matter. You like Mason Rudolph and James Washington were honestly terrible together in the NFL. Mason, I've done the stats on it. The order of people throwing to James Washington, the very best was Devlin Hodges. No quarterback touched the success Devlin Hodges and James Washington had. Then it was Ben Roethlisberger. Then it was Mason Rudolph. They were not good together in the NFL. So I don't think that makes the player worth it. And I want to add to you saying it could be tight end with one of my favorite formations the Steelers used late in the year was a 3 tight end, 2 running back formation with Derek Watt out in the wings, 2 tight ends. They had Freiermuth, Gentry, Connor Hayward, Derek Watt, and Najee Harris and Kenny Pickett. That was the grouping. And if you
it worked.
If the Steelers went and got another tight end.
Yeah.
Let's say a guy who's a good athletic, he's a good receiver, he's a good blocker. You do it in the second round. You get the kid from Georgia, and he works out. You do a 2 tight end set. That's your base set now. Your base set is 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. Both those tight ends are great. We've seen that work in the NFL before. It could work again. And then if you want to go in a slot, Pat Freiermuth can go in the slot.
Yeah, he's effective there.
He's really good at it, right? Yeah. And they put Jalen Warren in the slot this year. They put him and Najee Harris both out there. Ran a jet sweep for some 20-yard gain. A couple of jet sweeps. Both of Jalen Warren's jet sweeps were good. They worked. And those plays work. You put Connor Hayward in the slot. He beat a bunch of people. He scored a touchdown out of the slot. That deep, a couple of deep cat passes. You've got options there. You don't have to necessarily have that player be a wide receiver.
Yep.
So I'm gonna absolutely back you up and agree with you there. Our last group is wide receiver. That's the last group we need to talk about here, Shannon. I want to start with this. We're going to go back to the midpoint of the season. The Steelers traded Chase Claypool. We did not see a big increase in snaps for George Pickens. Not as much as we thought we'd see. There was an increase.
Mm-hmm.
The big increase was in Zach Gentry, Connor Hayward, Derek Watt played more. Jalen Warren getting snaps as double and with Najee Harris on the field. We saw extra linemen get snaps. We saw a whole bunch of people get different snaps, along with the normal changes of the Gunnar Olszewski, Miles Boykin, Steven Sims wide receiver sets where they never threw the ball. That still somehow worked. It doesn't make sense to me, but it still somehow worked. Do you hard to think how to ask this question here, but do you think George Pickens being a rookie was the reason he didn't get on the field? Do you expect that to change and for him to be like playing every down, almost every down, like Deontay Johnson did? Or do you think the Steelers have a reason for him not playing that much, not as much with George Pickens?
I think it was part being a rookie. I love George Pickens, but if you watch the film, there was times that if he knew he wasn't the focal point, he run the route different.
Mm-hmm.
He was limited on what routes they used him on. That's not necessarily his fault, but you can tell he needs to clean up his footwork. He takes too long to slow down to make cuts. If he could clean that up, don't round stuff off, but more sharp cut. He's going to help him get open more. He led the league or tied for the league in contested catches and catches over 20 yards. Contested catches in the NFL. I think it was 16 or something. That shows that he went up and over, around, whatever. He made the catch. He was everything that Chase Claypool wasn't when it comes to making contested catches. He's got incredible body control, leaping ability. He has speed, but he runs as fast as he wants to. I mean, he'll let a guy stay with him, and then at the end you'll see him accelerate to pull away. And I think if he would run hard the whole time, he'd leave the guy in the dust, and it wouldn't have to be a contested catch. So those are things that coaching and this offseason technique, they can work with him. I'd love to see him get with somebody like a Larry Fitzgerald or somebody who knew how to use their size, their length, body control. I think Claypool worked with maybe Brandon Marshall, or he worked with a veteran in the offseason, and it helped him some on that inside game, being able to make hands catches, and stuff. But, he just had his limitations. I think Pickens could really prosper if he gets with the right person and the Steelers work with him on his technique, because he needs to be out there. I mean, his blocking, we knew he was physical in college, but could he do that in the pros? And he would surprise the guys early in games, and they wasn't ready for his intensity, and he was just playing them, and it was beautiful to see. And so he has that intensity. Once he can fine-tune his game and his route tree, he'll need to be out there because he's going to be their big play guy. Deontay Johnson can feast against number 2, number 3 cornerbacks. He's uncoverable, honestly. He can get open on anybody. And you hear the top cornerbacks in the league that have to cover him talk about how hard he is to stop. Now, whether he catches it or not, whether he runs backwards for a little while before he goes forwards, there's certain things that he really needs to focus on improving. But you can have him. Then, who do you got? Sims is a free agent. And you'd like to have him back for, because he made some big plays this year. He's a good little receiver, and he's a good returner. But you ain't going to break the bank there because you can maybe find somebody else. They signed Anthony Miller, who looked like he was going to have an impact this year, but he got hurt in training camp.
Yep.
So I think he could be a possession receiver and give you another guy there. And then we'd have to see who they maybe could pick up in the draft. There's some guys there around the 4th round that are tall, got some speed, ability to get deep, that you can put in there as that 4th or 5th receiver. Miles Boykin, which you mentioned earlier, awesome special teams guy. I think the best gunner in the NFL. I mean, if there's somebody better, they have to put it over here and tell me who it is, because I didn't see anybody a better gunner in the NFL on special teams than Miles Boykin. So, and he could give you some. Cannon would never throw to him. If he was in the game, it was a run.
Yeah, I wasn't coming there.
Everybody knew it. So you could probably get him back for league minimum. I think you liked it in Pittsburgh. He's young. Again, all these guys we're talking about are young, so that bodes well for the future. But I think that at the most they might look at signing a cheap veteran. Maybe somebody to add a little leadership there in the room. And maybe look at a 4th round at the earliest wide receiver. But I'm not too concerned about the wide receiver room. I'd like to have a stronger option at number 3.
Yeah. I want to say a little bit on Pickens and Deontay Johnson, because I can't remember what website it came out with rankings based on all their different advanced stats and metrics and the next gen stat stuff. And they were ranking receivers in different categories. And one of them was creating separation. And the very top, number 1 on that list, was Deontay Johnson for creating separation. He was number 1, right? And all the way down at the bottom, George Pickens, right? I'm always open. George Pickens has the least amount of separation of anybody. Just generate, because they were tracking it on to the point the ball was thrown, on routes, wherever you were, all that stuff, whether you were targeted or not. He's just never creating separation. And then on the other side, they had a category that was like making the catch, which was contested catches, ranking contested catches higher, and then other catches and everything. All the way at the top, George Pickens. All the way down at the bottom, Deontay Johnson. I was like, you've got this incredible thing where you're like, okay, Deontay Johnson's open every single play. Yeah. He creates separation every single time. But what does he do with it? His catch rate is never high. Yeah. Like his yards per catch are never good. His yards after the catch aren't great. Like, and then you've got George Pickens, who's never open. But Kenny Pickett throwing to George Pickens at the highest quarterback rate of any rookie pairing. I'm going to bring that up again. Like, it's his efficiency with each time you target him was incredible, but he wasn't open. You just throw it to him when he's covered. Like that's your strategy. Doesn't matter. He's covered. And Deontay Johnson, the other side, he's always created space. Yep. It's just you don't know what you're going to get when you throw the ball to him. Like if you could combine the two of them, you combine the two of them, you got Randy Moss. Like he's right there. Like he's right there. You just got to fuse George Pickens and Deontay Johnson together. My goal for this offseason, I hope to see it. We all heard George Pickens dropped for some concerns, some red flags teams had on him about things like work ethic, things like character in the team, fighting with coaches, stuff like that. I kind of have to wonder if we're looking at a Kevin Dotson-like situation, right? Kevin Dotson looked like an absolute beast his first season. Next season, they're like, come on, man, we need you to work on stuff and improve. We need you to grow as a player. We need you to do the stuff we're telling you to do. We saw him come into this season not being able to run outside zone still. Right? We saw him start that and just be bad at it. And then like, we're going to play Kendrick Green because you're hitting your third year in the league and you can't do this stuff. Right? We need second year. No, third year. Yeah, third year in the league. And you can't do this stuff we've been asking you to do. Right? That's going to cause problems. At some point, you've got to grow as a player. George Pickens, I don't want to put him in that category yet because we don't know what he's going to do this offseason. I want to see him get with someone who works on footwork. His footwork is not great. His releases are like his stuff is just not the cleanest, right? And that's That means you're inconsistent with your route running and your timing. You need to get that down. Antonio Brown, they did a thing where he ran a hook route, and they tracked his line of movement and the amount of time from when the ball was snapped till he got to that point and where the point was on the field. Had him run a few different routes and then run a hook route again.
Mm-hmm.
He hit there within like 0.03 of a second to the exact spot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, his skill was that where I'm going to be and when I'm going to be there. He could sell other shakes in his route and everything. But Ben Roethlisberger knows, okay, he's running a hook. I know where he's going to be and when he's going to be.
Yep.
A hundredths of the second, I can throw and know exactly where he's going to be before he even cuts. George Pickens, Kenny Pickett can't do that.
Mm-mm.
If he's running an out route, you better wait till he turns that corner and shows you where he's running and then throw it to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you don't know what you're getting. You don't know where he's going to be. That's a huge, huge thing that George Pickens, if he can work on, man. If you had out routes and slants to your repertoire and a hook, and you're just reliable at it.
Mm-hmm.
If you could even if you can run straight up field, if you can run it and at 12 yards, either they don't know if you're going in out, they don't know if you're going in, they don't know if you're going past them, they don't know if you're turning around coming back, they don't know if it's back shoulder, if you're heading to the middle. If you can do that, you're unguardable. George Pickens would be unguardable. The question is, can he get there?
Well, that's why I want to see Pickens and Pickett working together this offseason.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen a title. I didn't get to read the article, but it says Kenny Pickett's already planning on working out, with this. I hope it's Pickens. Johnson gets open. That's not a problem. He needs to be working this offseason to develop that chemistry, like you said, like Ben and AB had. It's a trust factor and it's a reliability. And once you find it, Matt Stafford had it with Cooper Kupp last year. Brady had it with Evans, and all these great combinations. They know that guy's going to get where he's got to get, and they throw it before the guy ever makes his break. Pickett couldn't do that with anybody this year.
Nope. Yeah, he was. I think that was on the Pat McAfee show. He was saying that he's got plans to have everyone come down to Florida, and he's going to meet up with people in New Jersey. He wants to do all this. He understands what he has to do. He knows what he has to do.
Yeah, that's great.
And one of the great things is he was in that train. Like, you think about it, he spent years in that training facility with Ben Roethlisberger at the end of Ben's career.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he got to see Ben interact with people. So I think that's going to help Kenny Pickett's transition to NFL style leadership, is the fact that he had that dude there and they could point to him. I doubt Ben really had a relationship with him. You hear Ben talk, didn't sound like they were like, they can't talk to him too much. Like, you're busy doing your job. You're not going hanging around with the college kids, especially not Ben, like 38 years old. Like, you can't imagine him going over and hanging out with the college team and be like, "Hey, fellow kids," like
"Hey, Dad."
Yeah, and be like, "What's up, Dad? How you doing?" But he had that. Like, you still pick up things just seeing people and how they do things. So I hope we get that. We've gotten through the whole roster here. I want to close up with one of our big things about the offense is almost everyone's coming back, right? So I think we kind of heard your answer, but if you had to pick one spot on this offense to try and add a higher tier talent or a guy who could compete for a starting job, someone that could be a top tier kind of a threat. If you were going to add to this offense with a talent, where would you prioritize adding it?
I'll kind of give it like an order. If you could get, the offensive line, a generational talent, you got to take it. Because the offensive line's that close, but they don't have that talent, that type of talent. That would put them over the top, because a generational offensive lineman makes everybody better. The whole offense. I would like to see a top tight end, bring in maybe a top rookie if one presents itself. And then maybe that wide receiver 3, a veteran. That would be, those are my 3 areas that I'd like to see a focus, because I think the rest of the offense is very young and has a bright future.
Yeah. Now, I can't really disagree. One of the beautiful things with if you decided to add an offensive lineman is if they're really good, you could add a center. If you got a Pouncey level center, Mason Cole's your backup. That's fine. He can back up all three interior spots.
And he can play guard too. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. You get a top tier guard. If he's left or right, if he's a left guard, okay, Dotson, you're a backup now. And if he's a right guard and you say we got to play this guy right guard, James Daniel can switch to left guard. He's a veteran. He could do it. You could move that around. If he's a tackle, Dan Moore isn't set in stone. Like you could take really, if any truly generational talent fell to the Steelers at 17 even, you could take that guy and just be like, boom. Like this offensive line just went from entering the season in a good spot to potentially great.
Yep.
Like you could, just imagine you add, let's go crazy. Let's go crazy with it. Let's say you add an Alan Faneca at a left guard spot instead of Kevin Dotson with James Daniel at right guard. And there's you can do whatever you want at that point. You're gonna just kill it. I also like the idea of adding a second tight end. I think wide receiver is less of a need, mostly because I think this is more about easing Kenny Pickett into the NFL and giving him help, like giving him an easier workload before you turn this team into a team that relies on the quarterback to make the play and be the engine that drives the offense. Right now, run game offensive line, let them do it. Let them do their thing. Yep. Adding this kind of tight end would just add to that. Really just add to that, especially if it was a guy who could block like Zach Gentry and also be a good receiver at tight end, and you could move Pat Freiermuth around. That's brutal. We've seen anytime the NFL has that. That's a brutal thing to deal with. I would love to see it. I honestly don't think we're going to see any top tier talent added to this offense. I think, like the title we said, bringing back the Steelers offense for another go. I expect the Steelers are going to kind of go mostly with what they have and just, take out a Gentry or a Sims guy that leaves and replace him with someone similar. Do you agree with me, Shannon, or do you think the Steelers will actually pursue making this offense more dangerous by adding the talent?
I guess the thing that makes me think they might is, depending on where they think they're at in this rebuild, if they think they're really close to competing for the division next year, they might see they could easily restructure Watt and free up substantially more money. You really don't want to Cam Hayward at his age, but he's really got a big hit coming up. And I mean, he's worth it. I ain't saying that, but if you extend him, he might get to where you got that dead money again, and the guy isn't, he isn't worth it. So I think Watt they could look at. They could even look at Fitzpatrick. Some of these guys, they're going to free up money when they cut William Jackson. There's a couple other guys they can free up some money. So it's going to depend on how that free agency looks, if there's somebody they really want to target. But I'm like you. I think the offense is pretty much what we're going to see. If there's something added big, it's going to be a draft pick. I don't think it's going to be free agent. I think you'll see a defensive focused offseason is what I'm expecting.
Yep. Yeah, Cameron Hayward has a almost $16 million base salary this year. That you can mess with that. You can create space from that, depending on how much the Steelers want to spend over the cap. When you talk about total cash, which is how you do it. You constantly push money back, and you keep eating guys up the tree. Okay, that's really, I think we covered it all. I think we covered the offense here. Shannon, you have anything coming out you want to let people know about?
I'm just working on an article about what I thought was the 3 biggest weak spots. I don't like to name certain players, but in this case I did. But again, 2 of them I don't think we're going to see anymore in the black and gold, and one of them I think might be playing out of position. So that's the article I'm working on right now. So
the biggest weak spots, like overall the whole team, or
on offense and defense. Yeah,
offense and defense. Okay. Yeah. I have an article coming out. I think it's coming out tomorrow. I did one last year. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed the discussion on it, where I just asked the question, what was wrong with the Steelers passing game? because it wasn't great. What was wrong? And I make an argument basically where if I decide that if you predetermine like, you know, what was wrong was the quarterbacks, or what was wrong was the wide receivers, what was wrong was the offensive line, and then I put it in there, and I put it in for each one, arguing this is why this group is responsible, and you get to vote. So go check that out tomorrow. Vote for the group you think is most responsible between the quarterback, offensive line, wide receiver, and offensive coordinator. Offensive line won last year. We'll see. I think we all can assume who's going to win this time.
Matt Canada.
Yeah, we'll
Matt
see.
Canada.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe people really, really are angry at Mitch Trubisky. Who knows? But I have that coming out, and then we're finishing up the Vertex this week. Dave Schofield and I are working on we're starting a series on all of the Steelers free agents that played for him last year. We're going in order of snaps played. So we start with Cameron Sutton. So Sutton is this week. Dave's going to dive into the stats. I'm going to show the film about what Cameron Sutton, how he plays, and what he's worth. So check that out. And that's all I have coming. So hey, love the show. Glad we had the people here in the live chat. Thank you so much for coming. Everyone listening, everyone watching on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. We love doing the show. We love having you guys here with us. It's a great time for both of us. I know we always say we have so much fun doing this show. And you guys are a big part of that. You guys are why we get to do it. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. As always, have a great week. And let's go Steelers.